We're learning the Maimer V'Salachti Betוככם that the Rebbe said on Shabbos Parshas B'chukoisai Mevorchim HaChodesh Sivan Tavshin Yud Aleph. Up until now we were explaining the two types of hiluch, the two types of walking or going, which is one way to go from the bottom upwards, and the other way to go from up downwards. Going from up downwards is what's known as Or Yashar, the direct light that comes from above and comes down into the world. And from the down upwards is the Or Chozer, the reflective light, that from down here, from our place in the physical world, we go up and we elevate ourselves to connect to godliness. And what we said in the Maimer is that going upwards needs avodah, needs work. It's not something which just happens. It's something that needs to be worked on and is not easy to do on its own. Similar to the analogy of someone climbing a mountain. And when you climb a mountain, there's three conditions. And if you don't have those three conditions, you're not able to climb the mountain. Condition number one is that a person has to be wise, smart, in order to know the ways, in order to know the roadways and the paths, even the small pathways through which he can climb the mountain. Because if a person doesn't know the way, he can be going up, and yet he's going up to the wrong place. He gets lost, he gets stuck, and he'll never get up the mountain. So it doesn't help that he's climbing if he's not going the right way. And in the same way, when it comes to Torah and mitzvahs, which is what allows us to climb upwards to connect to Hashem, the first thing that we have to know is the roadways. If I learn Torah and I don't do it properly, I do it for the wrong reason, for ulterior motive, or God forbid, in order to put someone else down, or I learn Torah and I don't have the Eretz Melecha, the salt that sustains it, which is the study of Chassidus, that the study of Chassidus connects me to the inner essence of the Torah, to the godliness of Torah, then no matter how much I'm learning, it's not taking me up. And like we said last time, a story about the Baal Shem Tov, about how he said that Torah and davening in the place, it remained down, it didn't go upwards. It's missing the wings of Ava and Yira, like it says in the Zohar, and the Alter Rebbe brings in Tanya, that love and fear of Hashem are two wings, like the wings of a bird that cause the Torah and mitzvahs to go upwards. And the same thing is with the mitzvahs. If I don't have the proper intention, or if I do the mitzvahs in the wrong way, like the Gemara says about the person who feeds their parents good, delicious food, but doesn't do it with a happy face, does it in a way that he's shaming them, that he's putting them down, or a person gives money to a poor person, but he's not doing it properly, then it could be that this itself is actually not bringing him up, it's taking him down. So one has to be wise and know the way to do it. Together with that, one has to know even the small paths. The small paths means the knowledge of Hashem, that a person understands godliness, which brings him to Ava V'Yira, to the love and fear of Hashem. That's what enables the person to go upwards. The second condition is that the person needs to have proper strength. The person's not strong enough, he can't go up the mountain. He'll try and go up, he's going to get stuck in the middle, he won't be able to go up. And the same thing is over here, that the knowledge of the ways and the paths is the way that the godly soul goes up. The Torah and mitzvahs, doing them properly, elevates the godly soul to go up to Hashem. But the purpose is that the animalistic soul goes up as well. How does a person raise also his animal nature in order to go up to Hashem? And in order to do this, one has to have strong power, strength, which means that he doesn't fall under the load of Torah and mitzvahs. He doesn't have his animal soul falling, that it's not able to hold the load, that it's too heavy of a load for it, but rather on the contrary, the Torah and the mitzvahs that he does with the godly soul lift up and bring up the animal soul as well. The third condition is that the person needs to have the proper garments, the proper gear. If he's not wearing the proper gear, he won't be able to go up. And there's 2 points in that. Point number one is if he's wearing the wrong clothing, it's actually going to disturb him from climbing the mountain. It's going to hold him back. It's going to not allow him to climb the mountain. Point 2 is that he has to be wearing the right gear which helps him climb the mountain. What are the clothes, the garments of the soul? Is thought, speech, and action. Which means in addition you have the godly soul and we have the animalistic soul. In addition to that we have their expressions, the garments with which they're expressed in the world, which is the thought, speech, and action. Those have to be proper. Not only does it have to be that one doesn't have the wrong thought, speech, and action, but that he has the right one, which includes 2 points. Point number 1 is the chayas, the excitement, the inner life that there is inside the thought, speech, and action, which that comes from the pathways that we mentioned earlier. When the person understands godliness, then that brings him to love and fear Hashem, which enables him to go up. But in addition to that, there's the actual thought, speech, and action. Something that in Chassidus is called oisiyos, letters. Thought is made up of letters. Speech is made up of letters. And action is in the physical material world, which is called letters, because letters are things which are inanimate. Letters are referred to as stones. So it's called the wall. The wall of the world. There's a wall that can be a wall that separates between a person and Hashem. And how does a person take away that wall? And on the contrary, build a holy wall. That it says, Choymas bas Tzion hoyridi kanachal dima. Wall of the daughter of Tzion. Let go down as tears like a river. Let tears flow as a river. And in that way that washes the stones of the wall of impurity, of the wall of the opposite of holiness, and transforms it into a wall that actually helps the person go up and connect to Hashem. What are these tears? What's the idea of that? How does a person actually, in a practical world, there's the Ava and Yira which help a person. But then there's the practical physical actions. The person's thought, speech, and actions may have been in the wrong place. They took him away from Hashem. They separated him from Hashem rather than bringing him closer. And not only that, even if they didn't actually bring him to do improper thought, improper speech, and improper actions, but they themselves, by their very nature, there is the bestial nature of the person that pulls itself downward, and from the fact that it's able to do something wrong, it's already not able to go up and be connected to Hashem because it's pulled towards negatives. Even if it doesn't actually do it, it's the problem. How does one pull himself away from that? And for this reason there's the idea of tears. The concept of tears, even in the practical world, comes when a person, the emotion or the concept is too powerful. The person can't take it. It's not able to be contained within intellect or emotion. And so it pushes itself out as tears that come out, which means the person doesn't even have the power to speak, to express himself with words, and rather it comes as tears. And in a practical sense, this means that when the person thinks about the fact that I was separated from Hashem because of a thought or speech or action, or even because of the fact that I'm able to be connected to something which is against Hashem, so they're already in a place which is away from Hashem. Even if later I reconnected, what's the difference what happened later if for a moment I was separated from Atzmus Umahus, from the very essence of Hashem? And when the person thinks about this, he feels overwhelmed by that fact that how was I able for a moment to be torn away from the source of life, from the essence of Hashem, to the extent that his mind becomes compressed. His heart becomes compressed in a way that they can't express themselves, and the only way they express themselves is with tears. They go out of their abilities. They go beyond the place where they're able to take it, and they express themselves in tears. This is the going out of the existence of the person, and in that way rather reconnecting himself to his true essence, and reconnecting the stones, which is the oisius, the thought, speech, and action, to be able to be reconnected with Hashem. This is the third condition, and the third thing that's needed in order to go up the mountain. So now not only the person doesn't have the clothing that doesn't allow him to climb the mountain, but rather he now has the clothing that with them they help him go up the mountain of Hashem and bring himself up. Now he has all of these things, he's able to go up, especially in Gan Eden. The Gan Eden is called Har Hashem, the mountain of Hashem, like we mentioned earlier, the pasuk Miyale v'Har Hashem u'miyakum b'mkoim kodshay. Who will go up the mountain of Hashem, which refers to Gan Eden? Why is it called a mountain? Because a mountain is inanimate. A mountain isn't something that grows. A mountain isn't a living thing. But a mountain goes up. And that's the idea of going up. In order to go up to Gan Eden, the person elevating himself from the negativity and rather going up to be connected to Hashem. In order to do that, there has to be avodah. In order to do that, a person has to be worthy of it. Not everyone can just go up to Gan Eden. Not only that, but even in Gan Eden itself, there's different levels. There's the lower level of Gan Eden, the higher level of Gan Eden, and there's what's called Nahar Dinur. Nahar Dinur is the river of fire, that between a person being in this world and going up to Gan Eden, he has to first go through the river of fire in order to forget everything of this world. Because Gan Eden is spirituality, this word is physicality. That's the tears that we mentioned earlier as well. To go away, to go out of the previous existence that he was in. That's the only way to go up. And the same thing is, there's an avodah, there's a spiritual avodah in Gan Eden itself, when going up from one level to the other, which is called the Amud. The Amud is as if the pillar, the elevator, that a person goes into, which he connects to the higher level, as such leaves the previous level. Now he's able to connect the higher level and go up in Gan Eden from one level to the next. That although we talk about the lower Gan Eden, the higher Gan Eden, there's infinite amount of levels in Gan Eden itself. But it's all connected with some type of spiritual avodah of the person in order to go from one level to the next. And like we find in Gemara that Reb Zera, when he wanted to go from Eretz Yisrael to Yerushalayim, from Babel to Eretz Yisrael, he fasted in order that he should be able to forget everything he learned in Talmud Bavli, and in that way he should now be able to learn properly the Talmud Yerushalmi. Usually when you learn something, anything that you know is going to help you understand something else. If you know one Masechta, then it helps you understand another Masechta. But over here in this case, Talmud Yerushalmi is infinitely greater than Talmud Bavli, in a way that it's incomparable. So in order to go from one level to the next one, it's incomparable. He had to fast 100 fasts. And in this way, he's going to forget totally the whole concept of Talmud Bavli, which is called Memachshakim Eshivani, which compared to Talmud Yerushalmi is like darkness, like groping in the darkness, with questions and answers and arguments until you get to the answer, until you get to the final solution. And rather, in order to get to the Talmud Yerushalmi, which is drawing down light, he had to now forget anything about the whole concept of Talmud Bavli. And in the same similar fashion, when a person wants to go from one level to the next in Gan Eden, he has to forget everything about the previous level. Either through Nahar Dinur, which is dipping into this river of fire, or through the Amud, which is connecting to the higher level. And only that way he can go up. From downwards he can go upwards. And it's an interesting idea that this is also, for example, what we have the concept of the mikveh. A person goes to a mikveh before davening. you want to daven and connect to Hashem, you have to go out of your previous state and now go into a totally new state. A new state of being. When a person dips in the mikveh, he's fully encompassed with water, just like in the mother's womb. He now becomes a new existence. He left his old existence. Tevila is the letters Habitul. He becomes totally nullified, totally encompassed, so that he goes away from the previous existence. He now goes into a new existence. That was also the idea of tears that we mentioned. The person left his emotion, he left his intellect, he left his emotion. He now is able to leave everything that he was in earlier, and on the contrary, transform it, and now in that way bring it up to Hashem. Whereas going up, downwards, doesn't need any of these conditions. It just comes. It's there, it comes, and there doesn't have to be any of these conditions. Like Mitzvah Hashem, will continue with that next time.